The Pentagon is seeking to punish Senator Mark Kelly for speaking out against Trump. The Navy veteran was one of 6 Democratic lawmakers, who took part in this video reminding U.S. troops about their duty to defy illegal orders. Now, Pete Hegseth called Kelly's statement seditious, and he issued a letter of censure. He said that the department is going to cut Kelly's retirement pay. In response, Kelly called Hegseth the most unqualified defense secretary in history, and he added that he will not be intimidated and plans to fight back. Congressman, you were also part of this video as well. What do you make of this move to punish Mark Kelly?
Let's call this what this is. This is Donald Trump and his cronies in the administration weaponizing the federal government to punish political opponents, to silence dissent and opposition. That's what's happening. There's no merit to the allegations. They are simply trying to seek vengeance on me, Mark Kelly, and others for speaking up. But they've picked on the wrong people, right? We are people that have taken an oath to this country. We are not going to back down ever. We're going to double down, triple down if we have to, because we are dedicated to the Constitution and to the rule of law. What we did and what we reminded our service members of is the simple obligation that they also have an oath to follow the rule of law.
That, by the way, Pete Hegseth also reminded service members of in the first Trump administration before he backed Trump, when he was worried that Trump would issue illegal orders. I mean, should he be worried that the next president might court-martial him, censure him, dock his retirement pay?
Well, look, I'll say I was reading Jonathan Turley. He's a legal scholar, and he says the Brits are the ones who gave us this idea of sedition, and we definitely use that too loosely. Not everything is sedition, not everything is a punishable crime, and this video, I believe, was protected speech, and it does not constitute such a high crime. And I want to thank you for your service, Congressman. My dad was a captain in Vietnam, and he taught me a thing or two about chain of command. And when I saw this video, I was shocked because it felt reckless. It felt like it was undermining the chain of command of good order and discipline among troops and service members. So I want to ask you honestly, why the video? Why make a video when most service members already are aware that they can object to illegal orders if they find them to be that way? So was it a PR stunt? Because it certainly came across that way. It poked all the right buttons with the Trump administration. And I'm not saying that what they're doing against Mark Kelly is justified, but I also think it was pure resistance theater. And I don't think that was a very productive use of your time as 6 very honorable former service members.
Well, let me answer your question with a story. Before I deployed to Iraq with my platoon of paratroopers, I knew that these young men, 18, 19, 20 years old, were about to be thrust into a very foreign, very volatile, very scary situation. So I gathered them around in our main room in the barracks, and I showed them the film Platoon. And in that movie, there is a scene where that platoon, under extreme duress and fear, ends up committing a massacre. It actually was an illustration of the My Lai massacre, which really happened in real life. And then I led a discussion with my paratroopers, and I asked them, how did this happen? How did they lose sight of their humanity? How did they lose sight of who they were as people? And they become the aggressors. So it was that discussion that led the groundwork, that laid the groundwork so that when we were in combat, when we were in the fog of war, and they had to make split-second decisions about what was right and wrong and whether to shoot or not, they had already received the training. If you wait until the last minute, you have failed them. Right? We started a conversation about what the law and Constitution requires of our soldiers. And that's what every commander should do. So instead of undermining the chain of command, it actually reinforces the chain of command and what the obligation of our soldiers are morally, ethically, and legally. And I will never back down from that obligation because we have a commander-in-chief who has threatened to use the military to shoot protesters, threatened to send the military to polling stations, which is a violation of U.S. law, which committed a second strike in the Caribbean, which I think was a violation of law. All of these things give me grave concern right now, and that is why Mark Kelly, I, and others are reminding our service members and standing by them that they have an obligation to follow the law.
Quick response, Caroline.
And I hear you on that, but I will note that one of the senators in the video, when asked what specific instances of illegal military orders were you alluding to, because it wasn't specific, it was very ambiguous, which I also thought was irresponsible. If you're going to make these accusations that Trump, as commander-in-chief, is giving illegal orders, maybe name one. 2?
I literally just answered that. That's what I just described. That we weren't talking about orders in the moment. But do you want
just a general sort of vibes?
That's
hey,
the
by
training.
the way, you have this right, even though they all are told they have that right.
That's what I
They know
literally
that?
just illustrated in the story.
Yeah, well, no,
right?
it's a great story.
Is it possible for me and others to shoot a video when we think an order is being given that somebody has 5 seconds to execute that might be lawful or unlawful? Is that possible? No, it's not, right? What we were doing is starting a discussion about what the obligation of service members are, right? So when they are in the moment and they have to make that split-second decision, they've already thought about it.
All right, we got to leave it there. Next for us, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz ends his campaign for re-election, and he is blaming Trump, not the fraud scandal involving his state. We'll be right back.